Time is running out, and you need to hear this. My name is Sister Isabella Magdalene, and I'm a 42-year-old nun from Denver, Colorado. What I'm about to share with you is my near-death experience testimony of what happened when Jesus showed me the shocking truth about modern technology. Before I took my vows years ago, I worked as a senior software engineer at one of Silicon Valley's largest tech companies, leading development teams for social media algorithms. I thought I understood technology's impact on humanity, but what Jesus revealed to me would shake everything I thought I knew to its very foundation. It happened on December 8, 2022, when I was in our monastery's bell tower, preparing to ring the bells for evening prayers. We'd been having electrical issues in the tower for weeks, and despite multiple repairs, problems persisted. As I reached for the bell rope, a surge of electricity from faulty wiring struck me. The last thing I remember was the sensation of being thrown backward, a brief moment of searing pain, and then peace. I later learned that the electrical shock had stopped my heart instantly. Sister Margaret found me moments later and began CPR, while Sister Claire called emergency services. By the time paramedics arrived, I had been clinically dead for 6 minutes. They would work on me for another 12 minutes before getting a heartbeat. But during those 18 minutes, my soul experienced something so profound that it would forever change not only my life but my understanding of humanity's relationship with both technology and God. The moment the electricity struck, I felt myself being lifted from my body. There was no fear, no pain, only a profound sense of liberation. I watched from above as my sisters frantically tried to help me, their prayers echoing with a crystalline clarity I'd never experienced before. But what struck me most was seeing my smartphone lying next to my body, still displaying the prayer app I'd been using earlier. Even in death, that small screen was glowing, demanding attention, a detail that would prove prophetic given what Jesus was about to reveal to me. Then everything shifted. The earthly scene below began to fade, and I found myself being drawn into what I can only describe as a tunnel of living light. As a nun, I'd read countless accounts of near-death experiences, but nothing could have prepared me for the reality. This wasn't just light, it was pure consciousness, pure love, pure understanding woven into visible form. Scripture tells us that God is light, 1 John 1 verse 5, but until that moment, I had never fully understood the profound truth of those words. As I moved through this tunnel, I felt every earthly attachment fall away. All my worries about our monastery's digital outreach programs, my concerns about our younger sister's social media use, my own struggles with technology dependence, everything dissolved in that extraordinary light. I was reminded of St. Paul's words, "For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face," 1 Corinthians 13 verse 12. The glass of our screens was being stripped away, and I was about to see the truth face to face. That's when he appeared. Jesus manifested before me, not as the solemn figure in our church's icons, but as pure embodied love. His presence was so overwhelming that I felt prostrate in worship, though I had no physical body. The love emanating from him was beyond anything our human minds can comprehend, so powerful that it would have destroyed my physical form, yet in my spiritual state, I could receive it fully. "My beloved daughter," he spoke, though not with words as we know them. His communication was direct, spirit to spirit, reminiscent of St. Paul's description of being caught up to the third heaven, where he heard inexpressible words, 2 Corinthians 12 verses 2 to 4. "There is much I must show you about the world you've left behind." What followed was a series of visions so profound and detailed that they would forever change my understanding of humanity's relationship with technology. Jesus showed me humanity's entire technological evolution, from the first tools to the printing press, to the Industrial Revolution, to our current digital age. But I saw it from a spiritual perspective that revealed truths I'd never imagined, even in my years working in Silicon Valley. "Look carefully," Jesus instructed, drawing my attention to what appeared like golden threads of light connecting human souls to each other and to him. These threads represented genuine spiritual connections, the divine bonds that he designed us to have with each other and with him. I was reminded of Solomon's words, "A threefold cord is not quickly broken," Ecclesiastes 4 verse 12. These golden threads were the supernatural manifestation of that principle, divine love intertwined with human connections. But as the vision moved into our modern era, I saw these golden threads being replaced by artificial connections, digital links that looked similar but lacked the vital spiritual energy of real human bonds. Your background in technology helps you understand this on multiple levels, Jesus said. You've seen both sides, how the tools are created and how they affect the soul. He showed me the spiritual reality of social media algorithms, something I had helped develop in my previous life. I watched in horror as each notification, each like, each brief digital interaction released a tiny dopamine hit that mimicked genuine connection but left the soul malnourished. It was like watching millions of people eating food with no nutritional value. They felt temporarily satisfied but were slowly starving their spirits. The vision shifted, and Jesus showed me millions of people, their faces illuminated by screens, but their spiritual lights growing dimmer. "Do you see what is happening to my children?" he asked. He then showed me how the human spirit was designed to resonate with divine light. "Let your light so shine before men," Matthew 5 verse 16. But the artificial light of screens was creating a form of spiritual interference. "Watch carefully," Jesus instructed, showing me the spiritual mechanics of what happens when someone engages with social media. I saw souls reaching out through their devices, seeking connection, validation, love, all things that God designed us to find primarily in Him and then reflect to others. But instead of finding genuine spiritual nourishment, they were receiving what Jesus showed me as digital shadows, temporary emotional hits that mimicked real connection but left a spiritual vacuum in their wake. "Remember when you worked on the notification systems?" Jesus asked, knowing my past work in Silicon Valley. "You thought you were helping people stay connected. Now watch what really happens." He showed me the spiritual reality of a notification, how it creates a tiny spiritual fracture, pulling attention away from the present moment, away from potential divine encounters. I saw how each check of a phone was actually a micro-rejection of potential communion with God. Then Jesus revealed something that made me weep. He showed me how many prayers went unspoken because people reached for their phones instead of their faith in moments of crisis or need. "My children have created a new Tower of Babel," he explained, showing me how digital technology, like that ancient tower, was humanity's attempt to reach heaven on their own terms. "But unlike that tower," he continued, "this one is not built of brick and mortar, but of pixels and data, and it separates people not by language, but by layers of artificial reality." What he showed me next was both fascinating and terrifying. I saw how spiritual warfare has adapted to the digital age. The enemy has not changed his tactics, Jesus explained, only his tools. I watched as spirits of anxiety, comparison, and despair used social media algorithms I had helped create, to target vulnerable souls. This is why it is written, "Be sober, be vigilant," because your adversary the devil walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour, 1 Peter 5 verse 8. In your time, he often roars through notifications. Jesus then showed me something that particularly concerned him, how digital technology was affecting humanity's ability to hear his voice. He reminded me of Elijah's experience. The Lord was not in the wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in a still small voice, 1 Kings 19 verses 11 to 12. "How can my children hear my whispers," he asked, "when they never experience silence?" I was shown how our brains are being literally rewired by constant digital stimulation, making it harder for us to experience the deep contemplative states where divine connection happens naturally. Jesus showed me a typical human brain, its neural pathways increasingly shaped like the internet itself, optimized for rapid, shallow connections rather than deep, meaningful ones. Then he showed me something that chilled me to my soul, a possible future where human consciousness had become so fragmented by constant digital stimulation that people had lost the ability to hear the divine entirely. Their spiritual reception, if you will, was too cluttered with digital static. I saw children born into a world where silence was unknown, their natural capacity for divine connection drowned out before it could develop. But this is not the only possible future, Jesus assured me. He showed me another possibility, one where technology served its proper role as a tool rather than a replacement for genuine connection. I saw people using digital devices mindfully, always remembering that true communion, both with God and with others, happens heart to heart, soul to soul. Jesus then revealed something that struck particularly close to home. He showed me how many religious organizations, including some monasteries, had fallen into the trap of digital distraction under the guise of outreach. They believe they are fishing for men, he said, referencing his call to the disciples. but too often they are merely casting nets into empty digital seas. Then he showed me something that would become central to my mission after returning, the spiritual reality of what he called digital idolatry. It wasn't just about spending too much time on devices, it was about how humanity had gradually shifted its fundamental orientation from the divine to the digital. They ask their phones questions they once asked me, Jesus said, showing me millions of people instinctively reaching for Google instead of God, seeking wisdom from algorithms instead of prayer. This is why it is written, little children, keep yourselves from idols. 1 John 5 verse 21, Jesus explained. The idols of your age are more subtle than golden calves, but they can be even more demanding of devotion. He showed me how notifications had become like the ancient pagan practice of burning incense to idols, small repetitive acts of devotion that gradually shaped the worshipper's consciousness. What Jesus revealed next about social media was particularly striking. He showed me how the collective human consciousness was being shaped by what he called digital principalities, systemic forces that were restructuring how humans think, feel, and connect. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, he quoted, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. Ephesians 6 verse 12. These forces weren't inherently evil, he explained, but they had been allowed to assume a role in human life that was never meant for them. Then Jesus showed me something that made me understand why I was being shown these things. He revealed how my unique path, from tech industry insider to contemplative nun, had prepared me to understand both the technical and spiritual dimensions of what he was showing me. You have dwelt in both worlds, he said. Now you must help build a bridge between them. The visions continued as Jesus showed me something even more profound about technology's role in spiritual warfare. Watch carefully, he said, revealing how digital systems were creating what he called a global nervous system, a worldwide network that could potentially be used to control and monitor humanity in unprecedented ways. Remember what was written about the end times, he said, directing my attention to how digital technology was creating the infrastructure for what Revelation describes. I saw how digital payment systems, social credit scores, and constant surveillance were laying groundwork for a time when no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark. Revelation 13 verse 17. While Jesus made it clear that we weren't yet at that point, he showed me how current technology was creating the possibility for such a system. This is not to create fear, Jesus explained, but to awaken wisdom and discernment in my children. He showed me how the real danger wasn't technology itself, but humanity's growing dependence on it for things that should come from God alone: identity, value, connection, and meaning. Then Jesus revealed something that struck me deeply. He showed me how many people's relationship with their devices had become almost sacramental. They check their phones first thing in the morning and last thing at night, he said, times once reserved for prayer. I saw how notifications had replaced the Angelus bell of old, calling people not to prayer but to constant digital engagement. He showed me how social media had become a type of false communion. They share their bread with screens, he said, showing me families at dinner tables, physically together but spiritually separated by their devices. I saw how even in churches, people were more focused on capturing moments for social media than experiencing the divine presence. Look at what happens in the human soul during digital interaction, Jesus instructed. I watched as someone received a stream of likes and comments on a social media post. Each interaction created a tiny flash of what looked like light in their soul, but it was artificial, a spiritual saccharin that mimicked the genuine illumination of divine love but left no lasting radiance. Then he showed me something that helped me understand why this matters so much. I created humans for deep connection, with me and with each other, Jesus explained. He showed me the human soul as it was designed to be, a magnificent vessel capable of containing and reflecting divine light. But constant digital stimulation was creating what he called spiritual static that made it harder for souls to receive and reflect this light. Watch what happens during genuine human connection, he said. I saw two people having a deep heart-to-heart conversation. Golden threads of light connected their souls, and their combined spiritual radiance created what looked like a small sanctuary of divine presence. Now watch what typically happens today, he said. The scene shifted to show two people texting each other while physically alone. The connection between them was thin and artificial, and no sanctuary of presence was created. Jesus then showed me something that helped me understand the urgency of this message. He revealed how younger generations were being spiritually shaped by technology in ways that would make it increasingly difficult for them to experience deep spiritual connection. They are learning to prefer the shallow to the deep, he explained, showing me how quick, superficial digital interactions were training human souls to shy away from the deeper, slower work of genuine spiritual growth. But then he showed me hope. Technology itself is neutral, Jesus explained. It can be used to build up or tear down, to connect or to isolate. He showed me positive examples of how digital tools could serve spiritual growth. Prayer apps that helped people maintain regular prayer practices, online communities that supported each other in faith, digital Bibles making scripture more accessible. The key is consciousness and intention, Jesus said. He showed me how people could use technology while maintaining their primary connection to Him. I saw someone starting their day with prayer before touching their phone, using digital tools mindfully during the day while maintaining an awareness of God's presence, and ending their day by returning to prayer and silence. Then Jesus showed me something that would become central to my mission: how to help people rebuild their capacity for genuine connection in a digital age. They must relearn how to be still, he said, reminding me of Psalm 46 verse 10. Be still, and know that I am God. He showed me practical ways to help people reclaim the art of sacred silence and deep presence. The vision then shifted to show me specific practices that could help people maintain spiritual health in the digital age. Jesus showed me the concept of digital fasting, regular times of disconnection from devices to reconnect with Him. Just as I went into the wilderness to pray, he said, my children need wilderness times away from digital distraction. He showed me how communities could support each other in maintaining healthy digital boundaries. I saw families having device-free meals where they practiced real presence with each other and with God. I saw churches creating sacred spaces where phones were left outside, allowing people to fully enter into worship without digital distraction. Then Jesus revealed something particularly beautiful about the relationship between technology and divine connection. When used properly, he explained, technology can be like John the Baptist, preparing the way but then stepping back to let the deeper connection happen. He showed me how digital tools could help people find their way to real-world communities, genuine relationships, and authentic spiritual experiences. But then he showed me something that brought me to profound awareness of my responsibility. You will return, Jesus said, and you must share what you've seen. Some will listen, some will not, but you must speak the truth in love. He showed me how my testimony would reach people who were struggling with digital addiction, helping them find their way back to genuine connection with God and others. Before sending me back, Jesus gave me one final series of visions that would complete my understanding of technology's role in humanity's spiritual journey. Watch carefully, he said, for these are things my children must understand. He showed me how the digital age was creating what he called a spiritual paradox. While people had more ways to connect than ever before, they were experiencing unprecedented levels of spiritual loneliness. They are ever communicating, he said, echoing Paul's words about those who are ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth, 2 Timothy 3 verse 7, but rarely connecting at the soul level. Jesus then revealed something profound about the nature of human attention. Attention is a form of prayer, he explained, showing me how every time someone focuses on something, they are essentially offering a kind of worship. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, Matthew 6 verse 21. Took on new meaning as I saw how people's constant attention to screens was actually a form of ongoing devotion to the digital realm. Look at what happens during what they call doom scrolling, Jesus instructed. I watched as people absorbed endless streams of negative news and social media content. Each scroll created a small darkening in their spiritual light, gradually dimming their capacity to perceive divine hope and presence. They think they are staying informed, Jesus said, but they are actually participating in a form of spiritual self-harm. Then he showed me something that helped me understand why digital addiction is so powerful. Watch the spiritual mechanics of a social media feed, he said. I saw how each scroll created a tiny moment of possibility, the potential for connection, validation, or discovery. This constant state of potential activated the same part of the soul that was designed to seek God, but instead of finding fulfillment, it kept people trapped in an endless cycle of seeking. Now watch what happens during genuine prayer, Jesus said, showing me the contrast. I saw how real prayer created lasting changes in the soul, strengthening its light, deepening its capacity for love, establishing genuine connection with the divine. The difference was stark. Digital interaction created constant craving, while spiritual interaction created lasting fulfillment. Jesus then showed me something that would become crucial to my message: how the digital age was affecting humanity's relationship with time. My children are losing their ability to wait, he said, showing me how instant gratification was eroding people's capacity for spiritual patience. They have forgotten that I often work in seasons and silence, not in immediate responses and constant noise. He revealed how this impatience was affecting people's prayer lives. They treat me like a divine search engine, Jesus said, expecting instant answers to every query. I saw how this expectation was preventing people from developing the spiritual muscles that grow through waiting, seeking, and trusting in God's timing. Then Jesus showed me something about the future that filled me with both concern and hope. I saw two possible paths for humanity's relationship with technology. In one, people became increasingly merged with their devices, losing touch with their spiritual nature and capacity for divine connection. In the other, humanity learned to use technology as a tool while maintaining their primary connection to God and each other. The choice between these paths, Jesus explained, will be made not by grand declarations but by small daily decisions. He showed me how each choice to pray before checking phones, each decision to have a real conversation instead of a digital one, each moment of choosing silence over noise, would help determine humanity's spiritual future. Before my return, Jesus gave me one final, crucial understanding about technology and spirituality. The digital age is not a mistake, he said. It is a test, not of my love, which is unchanging, but of humanity's capacity to remember and choose what truly matters. Every notification is an invitation to choose between shallow connection and deep communion. As my time with Jesus drew to a close, he gave me specific instructions about sharing what I'd seen. Speak these truths in love, he said, not condemning technology but awakening consciousness. Help my children understand that they can use digital tools without being used by them. Then Jesus showed me one final vision of hope. I saw people using technology with spiritual awareness, maintaining their connection to God while using digital tools to spread love, hope, and genuine connection. I saw online prayer groups that led to real-world communities, social media used to organize acts of service, and digital platforms facilitating rather than replacing human and divine connection. The return to my body was sudden and intense. I gasped awake in the hospital, surrounded by medical staff who would later tell me my recovery was medically impossible. The electrical burns that should have been fatal had somehow caused minimal damage. But I knew the real miracle wasn't my physical healing. It was the message I had been given to share. During my recovery in the hospital, I began writing down everything Jesus had shown me. The doctors were amazed by my lack of brain damage from the electrical shock and the length of time I was clinically dead. But I knew that every moment of that experience had been orchestrated for a purpose. If you're watching this testimony, I believe it's not by chance. Perhaps you're being called to examine your own relationship with technology and spiritual connection. Remember, every moment is an opportunity to choose, to look up from your screen, to reach out to someone in genuine connection, to sit in sacred silence and listen to his voice. The message I was given isn't just about the dangers of technology, it's about hope. Hope that we can use these incredible tools wisely while staying connected to what truly matters. Hope that we can find our way back to genuine human connection and divine communion. Hope that we can create a future where technology serves our highest good rather than diminishing our spiritual potential. Before you go, I want to emphasize that the most important thing I learned wasn't about technology at all. It was about love. Jesus' love for us is infinite and unchanging. No amount of digital distraction can diminish it. The question is, are we willing to quiet our devices long enough to feel it?